Would you go on a mystery cruise? Carnival changes a loyalty perk. Philadelphia is now on the map of cruising home ports. Airlines shut down and one family's Alaska nightmare. Ahoy travelers, it's Amy here with your weekly Cruise News Roundup and my thoughts on some of the biggest stories of the week. Would you ever consider going on a cruise where you didn't know the port stops? A family-run small ship cruise line, Variety Cruises, has announced its first ever uncharted cruise. Traveling through Greece, they advertise immersive experiences, delving into local history and culture. The mystery destinations will be revealed 24 hours before arrival at port. Beginning August 23, 2024, the 8-day cruise departs Athens, Greece, and will visit various Greek islands, offering interactive workshops, shore excursions, and swimming stops. Swimming in the Med. Not only will guests be sailing on a mega yacht that holds just 72 passengers, an intimate experience for sure, but all proceeds will go to Variety Cares, the cruise line's nonprofit foundation. Mystery cruises are rare but growing in popularity. One line that offers them is UK's Fred Olsen Cruise Line. Its next mystery cruise on the 1,404-passenger Borealis is an 11-night voyage between Southampton and Portsmouth, England, and that's in November of 24. The cruise line keeps every destination a secret, so guests don't know where they are going until they arrive. They have another slated for December of 25. Windstar Cruises will be offering its first mystery cruise in 2025 as well. Now, there are definitely some locations where I would want to make sure I knew the port stops prior to booking, but if it's somewhere I've traveled a lot before or a destination that I don't have a specific place I want to see, then I think a mystery cruise would be fun and unique. I doubt that I will ever have the opportunity to go on one though, since they are mostly found on luxury lines, which I just cannot afford. So John Heald announced that Carnival's making a change to its VIFP loyalty perks. As announced this morning, we're making our complimentary beverage perk for our Gold, Platinum, and Diamond VIFP members more flexible and easier to enjoy. Effective July 20th, Gold members will be able to redeem their appreciation drink on 5+ day cruises at any one of our bars at any time, rather than after 5 p.m. on the last full day of the cruise, as it was previously. Platinum and Diamond members can also order their complimentary cocktail at any time and at any bar rather than during the C-Day brunch. Now, I think this is great, although I've never redeemed my free drink since I've always had the Cheers drink package. My guess is that Carnival has seen a lot of negative feedback on the restrictions to redeeming the complimentary drinks. Some people aren't going to want to attend C-Day brunch, or if they do, they don't want to get an alcoholic drink while at brunch. So I'm honestly not sure why Carnival put such restrictions on this perk to begin with, other than maybe they knew that doing so would limit how many people actually took advantage of the perk, which is kind of crappy if you ask me. It's only one drink to begin with. I've mentioned before that Carnival doesn't have the best loyalty perks to begin with, so this is a step in the right direction. If you are Gold or higher on Carnival, have you ever taken advantage of the free drink? Let me know. The Norwegian Jewel will begin home porting out of Philadelphia beginning in 2026. This is the first cruise line to sail from the city of brotherly love in 15 years. The Jewel will sail to Bermuda beginning April 16, 2026, with Canada and New England cruises offered for the fall. President of Norwegian Cruise Line, David Herrera, said in a statement, "We remain committed to delivering more experiences for our guests to create unforgettable memories so they can vacation better with us. We are particularly proud to partner with Hellesylt to launch cruising in the area, making it even more accessible to the U.S. Mid-Atlantic region." So are you tempted by this? Will this be a benefit to you? Now, if you live near Philadelphia, this could be your new home port. While a fall foliage Canada-New England cruise is on my bucket list, heading to Bermuda with the other stop being Charleston, South Carolina, isn't something I would probably look at booking. If I'm visiting Charleston, I really want to spend a few days there. Did you hear about one Oklahoma family's Alaskan cruise nightmare? Stay tuned for that. But before we get to that story, if you enjoy this video and maybe even learned something, consider subscribing with the notification bell on so you don't miss out on any future posts. During a family reunion vacation on board the Norwegian Encore, one family found themselves abandoned with a large bill. The Galt family were in Ketchikan and attempting to get back to the Encore after watching the Lumberjack show when they were left behind by the tour bus and then the ship itself. Apparently, they were told the tour bus was full and they would need to wait for another ride. The family alleges that the tour operator wasn't checking to make sure everyone on the shuttle back to the port had the proper tickets. They were relying instead on head counts, which potentially would allow non-ticketed passengers to take the place of those who actually had paid and had tickets on that bus. The family of 9 were forced to wait for a bus that then never arrived. Once they did make it back to the terminal, they saw the ship sailing away without them. This is where the story gets a little murky, as it is not 100% clear whether they were on a cruise line excursion or not. I've heard at least one source claim it was a cruise line excursion, but I haven't seen anything from NCL or the family. If they were on a cruise line excursion, I'm really shocked that the ship left without them, because that is not supposed to happen. NCL stated that someone attempted to call the family and was unable to reach them, so they left passports with the port agent and asked for the agent to assist the family in getting a hotel. The Galt family was unable to meet the ship at its final stop in Victoria, Canada, because not everyone had their passport, as one had been left behind on the ship. The family must have decided it was everyone or no one, because they all chose to get flights home despite all their luggage, medications, etc. being on the ship that was bound for Seattle. Since this was a family reunion cruise, which implies multiple family units, you would think some of them with passports might have chosen to go ahead and meet up with the ship, which would have allowed them to then handle things in person as well as retrieve everyone's luggage. But the story doesn't end there, as the family soon found that NCL charged them nearly $9 grand. Why, you ask? Well, I'd love to tell you. It is that pesky Passenger Vessel Services Act, which requires all passengers leaving out of the U.S. and ending in the U.S. to visit a foreign port. And they missed their Canadian port. That was their foreign port on this cruise ship. The fine is $971 each, and the line passed that fine right on to the family. The Passenger Vessel Service Act prohibits the transportation of passengers between 2 different U.S. ports on any vessel other than a U.S. flag vessel that meets all requirements for U.S. coastwide transportation. Any passenger who unexpectedly disembarks this ship at a U.S. port of call, like Alaska, due to any reason which results in a violation of the PVSA may be charged by the cruise company supplying the transportation. The next part of the story makes it seem that the family was on a cruise line excursion. While they originally had to pay out of pocket for all the additional expenses of hotels, meals, flights, NCL has stated they're going to reimburse them for those costs. Plus, NCL is also working to refund the PVSA. Now, why would NCL do that unless they were at fault for leaving the family behind in the first place? Hint, they wouldn't. NCL is also refunding the family for the 2 days they did not sail on their 7-day cruise, as well as giving each of them a 20% future cruise credit. Now, do you think anyone in that family is going to use that future cruise credit for a Norwegian Cruise Line cruise? Or will they be soured from sailing on NCL in the future? Honestly, if they were on an excursion booked through the cruise line, I wouldn't blame them for being upset enough to not book NCL again. Being assured that the ship won't leave you is the only reason I would pay extra to book with the cruise line. The only thing I can think of is that the line considered the excursion over once the tour bus made it back to the terminal. And the fact that the family didn't get on the bus was their fault. Or it was until NCL learned that the family had not been let on the bus and were told to wait for an additional bus that was then never coming, which definitely does shift the blame in my opinion. If the family had just been gawking around, didn't make it back to the bus in time, that's then their fault. But if they attempted to get on the bus and are told, hey, there's no room for you at the inn, despite the fact that you have a ticket, and the bus driver didn't then go through and make sure everybody on the bus already had a ticket, they didn't make sure somebody came back to get them, this then becomes the problem of the line. This story makes for a good reminder to either place all passports in the cabin safe so ship security can locate them, or take them with you when you go ashore. If they can't find them in the cabin safe, they assume you have them. They're not going to go through every drawer and all your bags to look for your passport. Even though this family was at a U.S. port stop, Not having one of their passports meant not being able to meet up with the ship at the next stop because it was in Canada. If their itinerary had been reversed and their stop in Canada had already occurred, it wouldn't have been as big of an issue. They would have still had to find transportation to the next port stop, but the passports wouldn't have been an issue at all because they would have been in the US. So was anyone affected by the Microsoft outage yesterday? All our phones went out where I work. It's a newer phone system, and the information on how to send the lines to a backup phones, which we have, had not been sent around yet. And as a law enforcement dispatcher, we need our phones. Thankfully, we were able to get ours up and running fairly quickly, but not all agencies were able to do that as quickly. I just hope the disruption of 911 and other emergency services didn't cost anyone their lives, because it's one thing for it to be an inconvenience, it's another thing for it to be detrimental. With many airlines affected by this, a lot of travelers found themselves stranded at airports or told not to bother showing up. And with so many cruises leaving out on Saturdays, I have to wonder how many cruisers were affected by this worldwide outage. You're supposed to fly in the day before in case things like this happen, in case there's any issues. You don't want to be flying in the day of your cruise. So I'm sure there were a lot of people out there trying to get to the cruise port. So Delta Airlines is said to have canceled more than 1,000 US flights. United canceled more than 500, and American Airlines around 400. And that's just the 3 lines, and that was yesterday evening. Hopefully anybody who was affected was just delayed and still able to make it to their cruise on time. But I can't imagine that at least some found themselves missing out on their cruise. Well, it's been a busy week for me. I've been doing what I'm calling pre-operation nesting. As most of you know, I have an operation coming up. And so I was rearranging furniture, and I've been going through all the stuff in the drawers of that furniture. I moved my huge china hutch across the entire house and then exchanged it with my secretary, which moved the other way across the house. And let me tell you that when moving that hutch, which is huge and has 2 pieces, it was not easy to do by myself. I managed it, but it's a wonder I wasn't found the next day pinned underneath the top piece of that hutch, because trying to get it lifted up and on the bottom, that was almost beyond my ability, and I probably should have just waited. Both the hutch and the secretary, along with a small dresser, have all had their drawers filled, and since I am a pack rat, they really needed going through and organized. It's hard for me to throw stuff away because I can always see how it might be useful in the future. Now, this is a real issue. Plus, I'm what my grandmother said. My grandmother would always say, I'm a pilot. I pilot here, I pilot there. And unfortunately, I also do the same thing. So I had a lot of papers to go through, drawers to go through. It was brutal, and I've had piles of items that I've had to take to a local charity organization, as well as I've burned multiple bags of trash at this point. And there's still a few more things I want to get finished, but the worst of it's done. I really like the new furniture arrangement. It's more functional for me. And I especially like that my secretary is where it can be used as intended. Even with all of that, I still managed to get a book read in as well. So what have you been up to this week? Anything fun and exciting? Did you almost get smashed by a large piece of furniture? Let me know in the comments. Are you ready for more information on cruising? Why not stick around and check out this video, and then come back for more information designed to help you have an amazing cruise. Have a blessed week, everyone.